All right, we're going to try to push through a bunch of the book of Genesis today. We're going to deal with Abraham and hopefully get out of Abraham into Isaac and Jacob. And so we want to move fairly quickly. Some of this material that we're covering today is going to be really pretty tricky. And so I ask for your patience with that. We'll be going through it. And you can't really discuss all sides of these things because they're very complex issues. But Abraham, we'll start off with Abraham. One of the questions, there's 4 questions that I want to discuss in Abraham's life, 4 major things that come up. One of them that comes up in chapter 12 and also in chapter 20, Abraham does it twice, is this thing about my sister. He goes up to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and it's like, man, Sarah is so gorgeous. I always wondered, she's 75 years old, Must have been different back then. She's so gorgeous and stuff, and therefore the king's going to hit on her. So you tell the king that you're my sister, and then he won't kill me, so he can have you, kind of thing. And that comes up, and do you remember? And then later on, it happens again, and same type of thing. Say you're my sister, and then he'll spare me. I think that was with Pharaoh, or was it chapter 12 was Pharaoh, and then Abimelech later on. And so what's going on here with this she's my sister routine? It's kind of interesting. Does anybody remember that Isaac does the same thing with Rebekah then? So it's kind of like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You see this happen, the same story kind of 3 times. Yeah. Everybody says Abraham wasn't really lying because she was his half-sister. But by the way, was that meant to deceive? Even, so I want to say Abraham, was lying there too. So why do they always want to marry the sister kind of thing? Some people have suggested that this goes back to some ancient Near Eastern customs and things like that. When you see something happening repeatedly and it's something you don't understand, is it usually something that comes from a custom, from a different, that we're just not used to. And I think what you have happening here, there's different ways to look at it. There's different sets of customs that can be applied to this passage. Dr. Gordon Hugenberger, by the way, if you get on the website on Genesis, he's got like 48 sermons that he preached on the book of Genesis. Gordon Hugenberger, I should say, from Park Street Church, is probably one of the best preachers I've ever heard in my life. The guy is incredible. Park Street Church, if you get a chance to go down there in Boston, great. But he has a different take on this. And so I just want to I think what's going on is that you have in Abraham, in other words, Abimelech or Pharaoh comes up and they see this guy come with this woman. In the ancient world, did a woman need a protector? By the way, even in modern times, sometimes do women need a protector and things. So what happens is she's a woman by herself. So what happened is a guy would come along and adopt her as a sister. And that meant that he would be the protector brother. And then what would happen is, then when she gets married, what does the protector brother get? The dowry. He gets the money, okay? So in other words, he would protect her. She gets married, he gets the money. Do you see how that both benefits? So when Abram says, she's my sister, the king says, okay, this guy's probably wanting her to get married off and stuff, so I'll take her into my harem and then just pay this guy off, okay? And so that's possibly what's going on. Now, by the way, does God protect Sarah? Does God protect Sarah? Now, I'm not saying what Abraham did was right or wrong. By the way, was it probably part of his culture that was just kind of a thing that you did to save your own life and things? He's trying to do that. But it seems like God protected her, that she went into the harem. And do you remember the one guy had a dream at night that God says, you touch her, man, you're a dead man. And the guy comes out to Abraham the next day, is like, hey, you told me she was your sister. This is quite some sister you got here, buddy. And it just, so it goes off like that. Okay. Why would God want to protect Sarah? Who is going to have the child called Isaac? And if she is, messed up with the Pharaoh or Abimelech or something like that, then the child, would it be Abraham's child? And so God protects her from that in both instances then, so that it would be known that it is Abraham's child. And so I think you've got God stepping in there and protecting her because of the line going to be coming through Isaac and that kind of thing. So this is those are just interesting stories. This custom of adopting a sister, protecting, and then marrying her off kind of thing. And I think that's just, was part of the culture and things. And even till this day, you have, are there points at which a woman could really use a protector? In our culture, you say, well, in our culture, women are just every bit as good as men and things like that. And then question, when my wife takes the car to the auto mechanic, is it very different than when I take it there and things? And so, yeah, it's just it's the way it is, okay? And so, but anyways, it depends. You say, well, you've got a great mechanic, okay? I haven't been able to find too many guys like that. Now, in chapter 18, Abraham, there's going to be 3 guys come to Abraham's house. And these 3 guys come, and basically, let me just work with this a little bit. And what you got is, and the Lord appeared to Abram, chapter 18, verse 1, near the trees at Mamre, down by Hebron. And while they were sitting at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day, and Abraham looked up and he saw 3 men coming. Now the 3 guys come to his house, they saw him, he hurried to the entrance of his tent to meet them, bowed low to the ground, and then what does he do? He invites the guys into his tent, he washes their feet. Is that practice of washing feet, again, is that what you did to people that were coming across the desert and things, that you basically allowed them into your tent? These are called laws of hospitality. And these laws of hospitality are really big in the desert. Once upon a time I stayed, I think it was for about 3 nights in a Bedouin context. We slept in like a Bedouin tent and things, and they had like Bedouin camels and things, and so we got to ride these camels. One night the guy went off he played this little lute thing, and the Bedouin fellow went off for about 3 hours telling camel jokes. And I just didn't know you could do that, but this guy went off, and each one of his camels, by the way, had a different personality. And I should say, if you ever get a chance to ride a camel, horses are about what? About this wide? Okay? Camels are about what? About this wide. And so when you ride a camel, I used to do Taekwondo quite a bit. I never could do the splits. But when you get on one of these camels, it's like too big this way, and after 45 minutes, you get split, whether you want to be split or not. And so when you get off, have you ever seen those cowboy movies where the guy's walking like bow-legged and stuff? When you get off the camel, I'm not kidding you, we were on him for 45 minutes. I got off, I couldn't straighten up, man. It's like spread out stuff. And by the way, the camels also have personality. So just one story on this camel thing, we'll get back to the Bedouin thing, but it's part of Bedouin culture. Camels, they use camels for everything, and they have personalities. And so when you get on a camel, they usually, basically, they're kneeled down, they're all squat down, and then when they go to get up, they push their tail end up, and they rise up, so you're on this thing, and it will throw you forward, just like you're going to go off, and then the front will come up, and then he'll be up. By the way, when you're up on a camel, our camel's up there. You're up, okay? So I get on my camel, he goes, and I watched it before, so I knew, so I rock forward, and then I rock backward and stuff. Well, I had this friend, wasn't really a friend, but he was a Southern Baptist boy, and he was about 6'4", and he weighed about 350 pounds. He was a big boy, and so I told you these camels have personalities. So the old Southern Baptist boy gets on the back of this camel, and so you watch, and the camel goes up, and then all of a sudden you see this camel's it's kind of like, man, this guy is heavy. I don't want to lift him up. The camel rolls over sideways, rolls this dude off, just rolled him right up, and boom, boom, like this. He rolls off, and the camel stands up straight and looks over, kind of, I didn't say he smiled, but the camel looks over and says, hey, man, you're too big for this back, and stuff. And so we just got a big charge out of that. But anyways, going back to the Bedouin have these laws of hospitality. So if you show up at their house, and the Bedouin told us this, he said, okay, your mortal enemy shows up at your door of your tent. He said, laws of hospitalities in the desert. Now, by the way, are things serious in the desert? People, you die of no water and things. You have to feed and house even if he's your mortal enemy, you have to feed and house him for 3 days. Now, he says what you do is you feed and house him for 3 days, and then when he leaves, you kill him. Okay? And so but you have to do the 3-day thing. And so they're really into this laws of hospitality, that when you're in the desert, you help. When you're in the desert, you're required to help those who are in need in the desert. Does that make sense to how they work together in the desert and things? By the way, actually, you guys know this. There was a fight in Afghanistan. I don't know whether anybody remembers this. It's the highest fight that they've ever had a battle. I think it was at 10 or 11,000 feet. These Navy SEALs were up there. I think there were 4 of these guys. And what happened is they were surrounded by Taliban. They got blown out of the water, okay? And so what happened is basically the Taliban got the best of them, and 3 of them were killed, and 1 guy was shot to bits, and he crawled for I don't know how many miles. He crawled into this town in northern Afghanistan, and when he got there, they don't call them sheikhs there. That's Arab term. I don't know what Pashtun is. I think my son calls them elders, but I don't know what the Pashtun word is. It's not sheikh. So they come into the elders of the town. This guy crawls in, having been shot by this Taliban and stuff. The elder comes up to see him, and once he's in the town and he's approved by the elder to be in that town, does that town have to protect him? That's part of their laws. The Taliban chased them down, got to the town, and said, hey, you got an American in there and stuff. And would the elder have fought the Taliban and destroyed half of his town to protect that guy? Yes, they would have. And once you're in their territory, it was like the elder, no, we need to protect this guy. And so this guy was protected because of these laws of hospitality, okay? He survived. Actually, a student in the preceding class actually has the book. The guy actually ended up writing a book. Now, he was shot up pretty badly and things, but he was in northern Afghanistan. I don't know what the name of the book is. The Lone Survivor. Yeah, The Lone Survivor. And so it just is fascinating. But what my point is, are the laws in Afghanistan, do they still function pretty much the way the Bible people did? I mean, it's really kind of amazing because you go back thousands of years and they're still doing the stuff very similar in terms of these laws of hospitality. What happens here? Abraham accepts these people in, they feed them, they wash their feet, and then these guys turn to Abraham and said, Abraham, Sarah is going to have a child. What does Sarah do? She laughs, and therefore they call the name of the son. She says, well, I didn't laugh, but she laughed. And so they call the name of the son laughter, okay? Yitzhak, or Isaac. They call him Isaac, Yitzhak, which means laughter. So his name is laughter.